Well, good morning. I certainly appreciate everybody joining us. My name is Brad Koch, and I'm a captain here with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, and I currently oversee our Central Division. I want to welcome you here virtually to the Charlotte City Council chambers for our inaugural CMPD Sergeant's Course graduation. Now, today's a special occasion as we recognize 12 leaders within our organization representing a cross-section of different areas and units within the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. Now, these 12 leaders have met for 17 sessions during the past 6 weeks where they were provided valuable practical training experience that covered operational, administrative, and developmental job dimensions of a Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department sergeant. In fact, during the past 6 weeks, 2 of these sergeants were promoted to the rank of lieutenant. At this time, I would like our Chief of Police, Johnny Jennings, to come say a few words. This time, Chief Jennings.
Thank you. Yeah, listen, this has been a very interesting year. I guess nobody's going to argue that as we near the end of 2020, we certainly are looking towards the what 2021 has to bring and some bright futures that we have. Being a sergeant with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department and with any department is definitely one of the most important roles that we have as an agency. That first line supervision, you have the direct contact with the officers and the people that do the work that we envision from the top, and that you have to make sure that we are within line with our vision as an agency. So the importance that you have, never underestimate that. I also want to commend each of you for taking that step into being the best supervisors that you can possibly be and preparing yourself for whatever role you might take in the future with CMPD as well. So very important that we continue to develop professionally and that we continue to understand that we want to be the best leaders that we can possibly be. So keep yourself humbled and know that you are a sergeant in the police department that secures the safety and well-being of the 15th largest city in the country. And that's very important to understand that. And when you understand that and realize your role within our agency, it will make sure that you know that our vision and our mission to protect our public is how important that is. Also, never forget how we treat people and how we treat our citizens. The expectations that you put forth with those who work under you to make sure that we're providing that customer service and we're always treating people with fairness and respect, and how important that is. So you will lead from the front as you have been, and then your future is bright to make sure that as your role within our agency is going to continue to grow. So very proud that you would take the time out and to go through this training, which I heard was involved several months, longer than it should have, but due to some of the COVID circumstances and things that we were able to endure and get through it. So congratulations to each of you, and take what you've learned and take what you've been experiencing and go out and exercise that with your everyday work that you put forth. So thank you so much.
Chief. All right, thank you very much, Chief Jennings, for those words. At this time, I would like to invite a class representative, Sergeant Henry Rozelle, down to say a few words. Sergeant Rozelle.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Captain Koch. Thank you, Chief. If I wasn't mistaken, that was such a good speech. I think you read my notes. No, that was really good, and everything you said is absolutely spot on. Greatly appreciate that. So I'm going to start off. This is a little different because everything's virtual. So hello to everybody here in person, and obviously all you virtual viewers. For those that do not know me, my name is Henry Rozelle. I've worked for CMPD for almost 21 years and have been a sergeant for 10 of those. It's been quite a year. Everybody knows in the whole country, especially here. This has been a tough year for everyone between politics, racial tensions, and of course trying to find toilet paper during this thing called COVID. I think it's safe to say that this year has been the most challenging year for all law enforcement across the country. However, we won't allow ourselves to be defined by a few bad situations. Rather, we will be defined by how we come out on the other side of them. This all starts with the first-line supervisors across all law enforcement. I've learned a lot over these years, which has made me a better person, husband, father, and sergeant. However, the day I stop learning about this job is the day I retire. So what is a first-line supervisor? Well, one day they are officers responsible for their own reports, their own actions, the actions of their partner, and the community that they are interacting with. Then they get promoted and are now responsible for the majority of a police department who are looking to you for guidance. A sergeant has more interactions with officers from day to day than any other rank in this department. Those interactions will determine where the bar on morale will be. Morale is the foundation that supports any organization's performance. If you cannot control morale, you can't control performance. So how does a sergeant become successful to ensure that the foundation stays strong, especially during times like we've experienced this year? There are many ways to accomplish this, but there is one way we can never waver from: taking care of your officers. Taking care of your officers ensures a high level of performance. When officers are functioning at a high level, the community we serve receives the best possible service. It may sound simple, but it's not. Sometimes taking care of your troops could come in the form of a simple praise for a job well done. Other times it may be saving officers from themselves by counseling them when they cut a corner, or just being there for them when they're having personal issues. The list can go on and on. So how do we prepare our sergeants to be successful and prepare them for this level? 5 years ago, this would be a difficult question to answer, but I can stand up here today and confidently tell you that we are on our way to ensuring our sergeants are prepared and confident they can do the job successfully. Over the past several years, we have implemented training that was never available before. These include the Supervisor's Career Path, which is comprised of 4 mandatory classes an officer has to successfully complete prior to being eligible to become a sergeant. Once promoted, another 3 weeks of training is required, a week of classroom and 2 weeks of riding with a more experienced training officer, or training sergeant, excuse me. And now, this sergeant's course. This helps us to be better sergeants and prepare us for the next level of supervision. This is the first sergeant's course of its kind implemented in the history of CMPD. 11 other great sergeants from all over the department have taken on a 4-month journey, well, actually 8, thanks to COVID, of physical and mental challenges with one goal in mind: keep getting better. To my classmates, we have been challenged through early morning physical fitness where we were exhausted, wanted to quit at times, but never gave up. We relied on each other's motivation to finish the workout. We have been challenged through complicated scenarios where we relied on each other's experiences to work through them. We have certainly all learned from the instructors, and most important, from each other. The relationships we have built will stay strong for years to come. As you move up the ranks, take on more responsibility, there will always be a team of 11, only one phone call away to help us thrive. That's all of you. We are now responsible for ensuring the future sergeant courses are even better than this one. This is the only way to ensure we continue to evolve as a police department and set the standard across the country. Because of this, we will be better, stronger, and will continue to lead the way in paving the path for all law enforcement. I want to express my appreciation to the following people who have made this course a great success: Deputy Chief Estes for his vision, Lieutenant Furr for his vision and dedication, new Chief for allowing us to give us the resources we needed to make this successful, Officer Etter and Embry for, well, their hunger for making us cry during PT. All the class instructors, every one of them, they were fantastic. They dedicated their time and were there for us, and that was another reason why we were very successful. The families of the classmates that had to change their schedules during this tough time we're in to make sure we had to be at this mandatory class. The community members who participated in several exercises, fantastic. And of course, to my classmates, We are the spearhead of the department. And, oh, as my man Sergeant Carter would say, one last thing. Always keep an open mind and always, always be safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henry. At this time, I have the honor and privilege of introducing the individual behind this unique sergeant's course. He has been an inspiration to many. He's going to be retiring at the end of this year, but he really is the visionary, played a very big part in my career path and my growth. And at this time, I would like to introduce Deputy Chief Jeff Estes. Chief Estes.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Chief. It's my honor and privilege to be here today to speak to you, the class graduates of 001 in the Sergeant's course. I'm extremely proud of you. As we said from the beginning, you're the plank owners, first part of a class, and now I like what Henry said, you're responsible for carrying the class on forward. So as I thought about what to talk about today, I looked back, I couldn't help but look back at the end of my career on the beginnings of my career and maybe reflect a little on my path. And so as I did, there are two people that I thought I would highlight. Ironically, neither one of them were CMPD sergeants. I was trying to come up with ones, and I think you'll understand, while I've had many good sergeants here at CMPD, the two that were the most impactful on my life, particularly when it deals to leading people, and make no mistake, that's what you are and that's what you'll do. That's what we all do. We lead people. These two in particular had an impact on my life. And they couldn't be more different people. One is a baseball coach named Charlie, and another was a sergeant that I had when I was a young Marine just getting started. So for the baseball coach, a guy named Charlie worked through the 9th grade and then dropped out of school, out of high school, and drove delivery trucks for his whole life. And I think Charlie had a certain knack for perseverance through hard and difficult times. Later, I believe that the decisions he made earlier in life that he had to stick and live with as you grow older and you're looking at what you've accomplished in life, and you maybe have reached the peak, and that might be less than you envisioned. I think you kind of internalize that some, but there can be strengths that are derived from that. I want to tell you about what I got from him. So one year, I would say I was 10, 11 years old. I wanted to play baseball. So back then, here in Charlotte, we had a kind of a recreational leagues that you played with. Well, the first day of the first practice, the coach that we had, and I'll remind you, the team we had this year was the one where everyone else had already picked the players, and then we were the ones that were left. So yeah, think Bad News Bears, or those you can remember from the 70s. That's exactly what we had. A whole microcosm of kids out there at different levels of puberty, and I mean, we had the kid from juvenile hall and the kid who was maybe had a growth problem on the team. First day, first coach that comes up is clearly an alcoholic, spent the whole time sleeping in the dugout, just like out of the movie. So the second practice, Charlie stepped up and decided he would coach. Never coached before, wasn't a big baseball mind, but what he did do profoundly impacted me in ways that I really didn't understand at the time, and I'll explain how. So just to say, we lost every game. Wasn't even close. There was never even a time where it was even competitive, other than the first inning when the score was 0-0. We were that bad. No joke. But through that, every game and every practice, we worked hard. to get better. So it wasn't really a competition between us and other teams. It was a competition between us and ourselves and us as a team, bringing together a group of individuals, nothing alike, shared nothing in common except for the will to win, or at least in our case, of course, to get better. So we celebrated little things, like the first time one of our kids put the bat on a ball. That was a big deal, and we all celebrated for that person. And then Charlie would take, most of the kids didn't have rides, so he had a truck, and he'd go around all across Charlotte picking up kids. Back then, you could still ride in the back of trucks. It was a fun thing to do. And so throughout the whole season, perseverance was something, it was a word I didn't understand, but I experienced. Also, individual talents, individual meaning as part of the team was emphasized. And I think it's because, Charlie made some decisions early in his life where he lived perseverance day in and day out to say, I live on my choices I make, and I'm going to be, as much as I can, I'm going to make it the best I can, and perseverance. In other words, to make a team out of individuals, even in the heart of adversity and through perseverance. So Charlie, who also happened to be my dad, he passed away about 6 years ago. And though not a very accomplished man at all, I will tell you that that year that he coached, that team had left an indelible mark on my life. So I figured I'd pass that on to you today. You will be making teammates out of individuals who the only bond we share is that we work for an organization that has a goal in mind, which is to be the highest, most professional police organization anywhere. And so I challenge you through adversity, through perseverance, that you celebrate each other's successes, even through times like these, which are adverse. Now, the second person is a guy named Sergeant Green. And you have to realize at this time I was 18 years old, reporting to my first duty station, which was on a ship in Japan, literally across on the other side of the world. And no matter what you think, it can, even around a bunch of people in a situation like this, it can be very, very lonely. So I fly onto this ship at sea at night. And, it's moving and you can see. And so the first thing you hope is you'll survive landing on a ship at sea at night. That's the first thing. Alone, just your proverbial sea bags, and that's all you get. You land, the hatch opens, and there's some people wearing some stuff on the flight deck. Things are going everywhere, and they just point you out towards a door. And as I get to the door, super confused, everything's crazy, nothing's going as I imagined. I see a small, if I can describe Sergeant Green, it'd be like a small Mike Tyson with the voice and all. So, ripped up guy, at this juncture probably 30 years old, but spoke like a high voice like Mike Tyson. So the voice didn't exactly match what he looked like. So it was distinctive, and he motioned me over, and there I met Sergeant Green. So to describe him at this juncture, I think it's important to remember he was one of a few NCO sergeants there with about 100 of us in this particular unit, cut off from the rest of the world. And leadership there is at a premium. Sergeant Green was a transcendent leader. He took me from that particular chaos down into the place where we lived at the time, which was, as you may remember, or you might know, a young person, youngest rookie going into 100 people who are not necessarily happy to be there, and you're sleeping in very close quarters. It can be quite the experience, but he settled me down, got me set up, and then from there, I began to observe Sergeant Green. And I can say he's a transcendent leader. In other words, he led those people below him, the other sergeants who were equal to him, and also the lieutenants and captains who were above him. Well, how did he do that? Well, first, he was knowledgeable. He knew his business. There's no part of the job, what he had, that he didn't know. So he was a source of knowledge for folks around him. When we played intramural sports, that was a big deal at the time. He's also a leader on the field, whether winning or losing. Well, let me just say, we won every game during that. So juxtapose the baseball, so we won every football, every basketball, every baseball game. So I had some vindication with Sergeant Green. But he was a stand-up person. If the ball was out of bounds off him and it was close, he'd raise his hand and say, yeah, off me, even if it was a close game. When Sergeant Green spoke, people listened, not because he was profoundly smart or had something, witty to say, whatever. It was because it was the truth. And it was the truth every single time. You'll find when you meet people like that, you listen to what they have to say. Because there's no doubt what they're telling you is meant for a good purpose, from a good place, and for a good reason. I watched that when people underneath him would accomplish things, in his mind, you couldn't tell if he accomplished it or if the other person did. He was so excited and so proud of the accomplishments. When people would get promoted, even there was a time that somebody got promoted equal to him, you would have thought that he got promoted himself. And so I watched that. Conversely, whenever there was a punishment to be meted out, one of his folks got in trouble. A lot of times that would be confinement to the ship during a stop at a place. Now remember, you're in the middle of nowhere, so if we stop in Australia or we stop in Africa or the Philippines or wherever else we stopped, it was a big deal to be able to go off and whatever, and these folks would have to stay on board. Sergeant Green stayed on board as well. He took it personally that one of his troops had messed up, and so he felt like he should share in the punishment. I can't tell you what kind of effect that had on the person who was in trouble, to have Sergeant Green sitting there with him, and the amount of pressure it put on them, but also on the rest of the folks to know, I'm not going to get in trouble just because of me, but I'm also not going to get in trouble because I don't think Sergeant Green would like it, and I don't want him to get in trouble as well. I'll watch that. We were out on the range, or a time when we had to go shoot or complete some course or whatever. It didn't matter if it was early or late or in between. We would continue to do it with Sergeant Green's group. Even after other people had left, other squads had left, we would do it until we got it right. Just demand as close to perfection as we could. I learned a lot from him. He left before I completed my tour there. There was a very difficult time in my life there. I was promoted up and moved through, and it caused a lot of consternation among some of the other troops there. And one of the sole people who was there for me and supportive for me and kind of ran point for me was Sergeant Green. I've never forgot that. So if Sergeant Green, if you're listening, I appreciate everything you did for me, and I watched you. So it's at those two people that I come to you today to say I've tried to be some of both of them my whole career. And I have watched and I've seen other sergeants, and I've had great leadership here, don't get me wrong, but if I have to go back and say it's those two, an impressionable time of my life, that made the biggest impression on me. And so I challenge you to make teammates out of individuals. Be that transcendent leader. All of those things that you want to be, you can be, as long as you persevere. So in closing, what I thought I would do, I would give you the leadership traits that Sergeant Green made me learn. And they're short, but I think they're pertinent, and they're ones that I think that serve us well. First is just to recognize the word sergeant, what it is. And some of you aren't sergeants anymore, but that's okay. You were a sergeant. Sergeant comes from the Latin serventium, which means to serve. So if you have any indications that as a sergeant you'll be telling people what to do for a living, that's not right. You're looking at it wrong. You'll be serving people. Servanthood is a lot different than pointing your finger and directing. That'll only take you so far. So even the origin of the word means to serve. So here they are in no particular order from Sergeant Green. The first one is justice. You have to be fair and consistent. Consider all sides of a decision, even when you don't want to. Even when you know right off the bat, yeah, I don't agree with this, and you're shutting it down. No, I don't. At least hear the people out. Consider all sides before you make your decision. The next one is judgment. This is thinking things through in a clear fashion without prejudice. It's called using your best judgment. That means that putting your personal things aside, that you're looking out for the needs of the organization, and that you consider the end result and what's right and what's good. Next is dependability. The ability to be relied upon, always, not cutting corners. Being reliable means being on point every single day. As a leader, you're not allowed to have a bad day. If you are having a bad day, make sure that your troops don't see it. It's not their fault. It's not their issue. That's yours. Next is initiative. This is taking action when permissible before being tasked, and you allow others to do the same. Set parameters up for people who can come to you with solutions to problems and not just bringing the problems up for you to solve. Next is decisiveness. This is the ability to make good decisions quickly when needed. I think you guys saw some of that hopefully last night during your capstone event. That's one of the ideals that came out of that whole capstone, that we challenge you, particularly under a time constraint. And no other place, or not many other places in the world, do you have to make decisions with life-long consequences under time constraints that you do here. So it's important that you're decisive. Not only do you make those decisions, you also communicate them clearly. And then tact. This is dealing with people in a humane way, being professional and being polite, and with understanding when you're dealing with people, knowing that they're human beings first. Think about my dad, dealing with people of all manner, of all socioeconomic attitudes, and dealing with them with understanding and treating people equally and humanely. Next is integrity. This is being honest and truthful in all you say and all you do. You value moral principles above all else. Enthusiasm. This is performing with optimism, excitement, willing to take on challenges. I can tell you that enthusiasm is contagious. If you go to work with your shift and you tackle a challenge with enthusiasm, it will be, I guarantee you, it will be reciprocated. It will catch on. And then bearing. It's a word we don't use much anymore, but bearing is conducting and carrying yourself in a professional manner, being alert and confident and in control, with pride in your appearance, representing yourself well along with your organization. The clothes that you wear right now have been worn by many, many others. In fact, the badge on your chest and the blue uniform you have on, there have been people wearing that exact thing who have died for the cause that we work for. I think it's time that we remember that and we carry ourselves accordingly when you wear that. Unselfishness. This is considerate of others before self, and you give credit to others willingly and readily. Think Sergeant Green. Courage. This is being calm in the face of fear. This is an absence of fear. This is being able to think through the fear, and the strength to stand up for what is right. Knowledge. This is knowing your job, the policies, current events, and the science and art of knowing people. This is called being on point. Loyalty. Loyal to your agency, to the nobility of what we do. Loyal to your people and loyal to your organization. And lastly, endurance. This is the mental and physical stamina, the ability to persevere despite hardships, upholding all those other character traits that I talked to you about. You know, we don't ask you necessarily to be leaders in good times, really. Anybody can do that. Anybody can get the shift out. Anybody can do some patting on the backs. We ask you, and we put those stripes on your shoulders or the device on your collar for the hard times. That's when leadership is required, through the hard times. I'm very confident in each one of you after your selection for promotion first, second in participation and outstanding performance in the first sergeant's course, that you would do just that. So on behalf of myself, Chief Jennings, and the rest of the executive staff, along with Charlie and Sergeant Green, I congratulate you on Class 001's graduation. Thank you.
All right. At this time, ask Chief Jennings to come down. At this time, we will recognize the graduates of our very first sergeant's course. Now, as I read their names, we have about 183 years worth of experience, which is a lot of experience that these officers are able to take back to their troops. So starting off, we have one of our lieutenants that just was promoted, Lieutenant Trent Beam. Lieutenant Beam has worked for the Charlotte Police Department for the past 20 years, and he currently works in Operations Command. I'm not sure if they're in the picture, but we're taking pictures over here, just to my side over here. Next up is Sergeant Michael Carter. Sergeant Carter has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for 19 years and is currently the supervisor for electronic monitoring in the Community Services Division. Our next graduate is Sergeant Luke Dyer. Sergeant Dyer has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for the past 16 years and currently is the supervisor for in-service training in the Training and Recruiting Division. Our next graduate is Sergeant Crystal Fletcher. Sergeant Fletcher has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for 9 years and currently is a supervisor for the North Patrol Service Area School Resource Officers in the Community Services Division. Our next graduate, Sergeant Tamila Gibbs. Sergeant Gibbs has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for the past 10 years and currently works in the Internal Affairs Bureau. Our next graduate, Sergeant James Hoppy. Sergeant Hoppy has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for the past 11 years and currently works in the North Division supervising third shift. Our next graduate, Sergeant Keith Martin. Sergeant Martin has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for the past 21 years and currently works in crime scene, overseeing all crime scene investigators. Our next graduate, Sergeant Warith Muhammad. Sergeant Muhammad has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for the past 10 years and currently works in internal affairs. Our next graduate, Sergeant Brandon Overcash. Sergeant Overcash has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for the past 14 years and currently works in the Covert Operations Division. Our next graduate, Sergeant Eddie Cavedo. Sergeant Cavedo has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for the past 15 years and currently works in the Violent Crimes Division in the Homicide Unit. Our next graduate, Sergeant Henry Roselle. Sergeant Roselle has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for the past 20 years and currently works in the Independence Division as their administrative sergeant. And our final graduate of the day is Lieutenant Jeffrey Wheaton. Lieutenant Wheaton has worked for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for the past 18 years, and he currently works in Operations Command. At this time, Chiefs, Lieutenant Furr, you guys can have a seat. I want to thank and congratulate our 12 graduates this morning. I'm sure you're all clapping at home as well. Now, Chief Putney, who was here before Chief Jennings, facilitated the development and institution of our very first command college in 2016. Now, since then, 66 leaders have graduated from this prestigious program from a multitude of different departments throughout the Southeast. The program was created to develop leaders and prepare them for complex contemporary challenges through innovative techniques, superior education, research, and a network of professional partnerships. Now, though this command college was created 4 years ago to professionally develop lieutenants and captains, there was a void for the rank of sergeant until now. As I alluded to earlier, Deputy Chief Jeff Estes drove the ship on that. Now, this program identified emerging leaders from within the rank of sergeant, and there is a competitive application process to be considered for this very prestigious course. Now, graduates in the 5 previous command college classes continued to be promoted to higher ranks within their respective departments, and I'm confident that this group of 12 will continue to rise higher within our organization. Now, Simon Sinek is a best-selling author and a motivational speaker. He wrote a book called Leaders Eat Last. Now, this book can be summarized into 3 sentences. Leadership is taking care of people. Leaders are not responsible for the numbers. Rather, leadership is about the people. And take care of the people, and the numbers will take care of themselves. Now, I'm sure Simon would love you to buy that book on Amazon, but if you want to save your $11, there's the summary. Now, as CMPD sergeants, course graduates, you're intimately familiar with the importance of taking care of each other. One of the basic tenets of the supervision is that the team can always go further than any one individual can go by themselves. Make sure you always take care of your team. Now, I will close with a quote from Nelson Mandela: "Lead from the back and let the others believe they are leading from the front." I want to thank you all for joining us this morning for this unique opportunity here to get a glimpse of how we develop leaders within the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. Again, congratulations to our 12 graduates, and thank you all very much for coming and tuning in. Have a great day.